In this episode, Toby's blood boils as he takes a bite at Castlevania Lords of Shadow 2. We try to measure the true worth of a game as we discuss what you pay versus what you get out of it. And I explore the delights of a quiet little Colorado mountain town as I check out the long-delayed and much-anticipated South Park Stick of Truth.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Kilobits. This month we're going to talk about something current and exciting, like next generation consoles.
Oh, next generation consoles? Like what, Fran? Like the Xbox One that's been out for 5 months?
And the PlayStation 4 that's also been
out
out for 5 months.
Has it really been 5 months?
Yeah, and in those 5 months you've had a lot of days to buy one.
And 0 reasons to.
Well, the Xbox One's just...
And 400 reasons not to.
Well, the Xbox has just had a price cut. It's gone down in line with the PlayStation 4.
And yet you still have to buy gold to play the one game I want to play on it.
But you get Titanfall with the bundle.
And
that
it's
negates the cost.
still an inferior console by miles. And I don't mean like on an opinionated sense. I mean like if you wrote down everything that you can do on paper next to each other and then took the names off the top, it's no fucking choice at all.
Rick, which one have you played more recently? Your PlayStation 4 or your Xbox One?
PlayStation 4.
What did you play?
Thief.
Lost.
It's garbage!
Yeah, little spoiler, don't play Thief.
It's mediocrity!
Yeah.
Which, if you've never played Thief games, it's just mediocre and not terrible. But if you've played any of the previous Thief games, it's
like,
garbage!
It's like testicular cancer. Speaking of testicular cancer, so the Xbox One's been out for 5 months, and it can't even do 1080.
Well,
I can do 900, which is some stupid bullshit resolution it made up to justify
But
itself.
then again, so can Tony Hawk's and he's 40?
yeah, so they have confirmed that Titanfall's not going to be 1080.
Good.
Wow!
My human eyes can't see the difference. Like, did you say the beta was...
It's something weird. It was like
792
792 or something like that.
And who gives a fuck, okay? It was like the best shooter I've ever played. I was like... By the way, that's me slowly rising on my fucking jetpack.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, there isn't... Like, if you're going to buy a console for a game, then... Oh wait, it's coming on both PC and 360.
Yeah, but on PC
Nice trump card.
It's through Origin, which, going back to your testicular cancer metaphor, is apt if anyone has ever used Origin.
I know, I think it's a awesome game, and it's awesome that Xbox is finally getting some new games, because they've also got a whole bunch of new indie people signed up to develop for them.
Oh
Here
yeah, there's like 60 people that have signed up to it, isn't there?
Yeah, so
Is it 60?
Yeah, and seeing as indies are so big at the moment, hopefully we'll get some good content.
I don't know about that. I mean, trying to get good indie content is like getting blood from a stone, especially on consoles.
Well, for the Wii U to get good indie content is just never going to happen.
For the Wii U to get good content, full stop.
Oh, fuck, he stole it.
Yeah, a little bit. Fuck you, Rick.
What a timely coincidence. I'm dying for a little drop of blood.
Talking about Castlevania Lords of Shadow 2 is an especially painful experience for me. I mean, the originals on NES are some of the greatest games of all time, with the exception of Simon's Quest. But something about this game makes me question what it is altogether. I mean, what is a game? A miserable little pile of coding. But enough talk. Let's review. Lords of Shadow 2 is the latest in Mercury Steam's rebooted line of Castlevania games, which, until now, have been a mixed, uninteresting bag of cliché and mechanics lifted from other games. Don't get me wrong, they're competently made games, but original they are not. This installment seeks to change this by taking the DMC route and trying to make the story of Dracula edgy, which seems kind of pointless really. Vampires have always been a pretty clear rape allegory, which is why taking the whip to defeat them as members of the Belmont family is so awesome. Oh, sorry, what? Oh, this time you play as the rape allegory. That is pretty edgy. Playing as Dracula is a pretty interesting choice, and if it had been handled well, it could have made for some pretty somber storytelling. Symphony of the Night and the Soma Cruise games saw the player romping around castles as a vampire, and they were awesome. This isn't so much. The whip combat is back from previous LOS games, whereby standard combos charge a gauge that allows you to earn mana to fuel your special weapons, but even on the hardest difficulty the game falls flat on ever making you feel vulnerable, or at the opposite end of the spectrum, powerful. The game looks pretty enough, and the effects are amazing, especially on stuff like the Claws of Chaos, but if the best thing you can say about a game is that it looks good, you're really not onto a winner. You just feel bland. Like a cardboard cutout of Dracula who could be defeated by any idiot with a sword, rather than an unstoppable creature of the night. A lot of that, however, can be attributed to the attempt to return to a Metrovania format though, which sees the game's opening with you fully powered up, only to be slapped back to infancy to regain all of your lost powers. It's a stale formula that only ever works when navigation is fun, but turning into rats for forced stealth sections and encountering the same fixed camera issues that plagued Lords of Shadow 1 makes it an irksome, irritating affair. The story is no better. Continuing on from the bland Lords of Shadow and the actually really fun Mirror of Fate, we rejoin the bastardized reimagining of gaming icons the Belmonts as they do battle with Satan, and the humans who wish to bring him to Earth. The setting this time is modern day, with occasional jaunts back to Dracula's castle, and it's confusing as hell, especially for fans of the non-LOS Castlevania games. Also, and this is a minor thing, Patrick Stewart has returned, reprising his role as Zobek.
It pleases me to see you recovered.
Now, anyone that's played Lords of Shadow 1 will understand why that is far from a good thing, especially when so much of the dialogue is lifted directly from the older games for the sake of nostalgia. This game is just weird. I mean, it's trapped in this facade of edgy as fuck in order to sell a couple of extra copies, and it just doesn't really work. I mean, it's a giant kick in the nuts to old school Castlevania fans, and it offers very little in the way of innovation for fans of Lords of Shadow. All in, it's below average, so I'm going to have to give it 3 out of 8 bits. Die, monster. You don't belong in this world.
Die, monster! You don't belong in this world.
So a couple of weeks ago, we got the sad news that Irrational Games, who is behind Bioshock Infinite, has shut down or will be shutting down.
Oh no, poor Ken Levine. Shame he's throwing everyone under the bus.
Yeah, see, we're sad about
I
this.
still find it hard to believe that there's an unsuccessful racist shooter.
But behind all of this, we do have a point, and the point being that if AAAs are starting to close down, does this mean that there is difficulty in placing value on games,
when you say
especially AAAs where they're so expensive?
When you say AAAs are closing down, I mean, you've got what? THQ, the Ken Levine company that you just mentioned. I mean, the industry is still ridiculous. Rockstar Games made like $1 billion, Magillion dollars from Gutav. And it's just...
within the first 30 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, it's not really a question of sustainability of the whole AAA industry. I mean, Call of Duty and FIFA are always going to sell. They're always going to make 40, 50 quid a year from the same people.
They're going to make 50 quid.
From the same
Per
people.
person.
Yes. PP.
Well,
Not just
Call
50
of
quid, full
Duty is
stop.
going to be a lot more than that, but I think you add in Xbox Gold, DLC, map packs, reskins. Oh god, just like...
Reskins.
Yeah, no, you can buy on Steam. You can buy.
Oh god, I saw this like the
weapon
meme
skins.
skins.
Like weapon skins. If you give us £2.50, you can have an assault rifle with Doge on it.
£2.50, that's a bit low.
Wow.
Well, like £8.
Such rapid fire.
Such rapid fire. So accurate.
Much death.
The overarching
Much
theme
regret.
and point is that games hold value in different ways. Because you guys might hate these games, but there are other people who love them.
Oh, I don't hate these games. I hate people.
You guys might hate people, but there are also people.
Actually, I can put in a nice. Like, you're talking about the value of games, and we were just talking about Doge. So Flappy Bird, which is almost a meme in itself, because apparently he was making what, $50,000 a day?
Yeah.
And
why did he take it down?
because
For
he,
$50,000 a day, you can call me all the names you fucking want.
Well, in fairness, in like 10
I think
days,
it was
he's doing $500,000.
I think
I'm
it
not
was
really
I
surprised.
think it was a legal issue, but with the fact that none of his assets were his.
Well, that's not an issue now, is it?
Not if you make $50,000 a day. If it's not.
You can pay all the
But
lawyers you want.
that spawned like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. I mean, if you go into the Android Play Store and look through there, I mean, there's like Flappy Doge, Splashy Fish,
Splashy Doge Fish.
Flappy.
Cats, probably.
Yeah,
But
Flappy Sombrero.
So the point is, you've also got free games, and a lot of them tend to be fun games and what have you. And
Pooping
in
games.
some of them, you do have microtransactions, so they're still making money. And you've got stuff like Candy Crush, Rick's favorite game of all time,
Can we...
making God knows how much money per day from.
Well, this is the thing. You guys are talking like the only value that a game can have is a dollar value.
Yeah, I don't get invested in things while I'm pooping.
I'm not talking about just phone games.
Oh, okay,
Richard.
that's alright.
But just monetary value.
Yeah, I'm talking about like, I mean, let's take indie games, for example. I mean, I'm not just talking about fucking Flappy Bird here. I'm talking about games which are produced independently. Stuff like Gone Home.
Like Flappy Bird, which is the Sesame Street one.
I will
Gone
hit
Home,
you.
continue.
So let's take Gone Home, for example. It wasn't worth 20 fucking quid, but the emotional value that I held for that game was far, far higher because, you know, I went through it, I had like an emotional experience.
An emotional experience.
It was an emotional
Was it like
experience.
a coming of age? Did you like come of age?
I did come a couple times.
So yeah, that was an emotional experience. So what you're saying is like some kind of weird like...
Weird? Are you saying
Well,
the idea that ascribing an emotional value to something which is indefinable and artistic
Oh my
is
god,
weird?
Toby's doing the
I
whole
was
game
gonna-
to
what I
art
was
thing
gonna
If
say-
again.
you would like, I could refer you to my Tumblr.
Well, what I was gonna say is that what you're saying, your point being, is that you can assign value to games based on how many times they make you ejaculate, which was a bit weird. That
Okay.
was the point I was gonna make.
Didn't say ejaculate.
You said you
It
did.
was heavily implied.
It was heavily implied. But no, I mean, if we're talking about, I mean, games as art is a whole separate issue. But I mean, if you look at indie games,
You're right, it's an issue.
Continue.
if you look at sort of indie games like Binding of Isaac, which I've played for like 120 hours, and I paid £3 for
So you're
that.
talking replayability.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
Oh god, Starbound.
yeah, exactly. Okay, I mean,
I want those hours of my life back, but actually I don't.
no,
this
you don't
is-
because
this
you
is-
just played it at work.
This is games in
Yeah.
terms of time investment as opposed to money investment.
Exactly. I mean, time value and money value. I mean, time is money.
But the thing is, with time value, you can kind of like work out how much you're paying per hour and what have you. And
Once again,
when
you're-
there's just this fixed cost, that's like I've paid £40 for this game. I've paid 40 hours. That's £1 per hour. But then you get games, subscription-based games, stuff like World of Warcraft and Elder Scrolls Online that's coming
And
out next
Titanfall.
month. Titanfall doesn't count.
Titanfall
definitely
fucking does
counts.
count. If you need to pay £45 a year
Okay,
to
but
play
the
a
point,
game,
£40 a year. These games you're talking like £10 a month. So you've got Elder Scrolls Online coming out. The beta was riddled with bugs, but there'll be people who will
oh, you mean
pay
the Skyrim
per
multiplayer
month.
mod that they're charging for?
The point being,
Can we let
people
the woman
pay
finish?
per month.
Fine.
And then it depends how much time you then put in. And these ones you can like kind of cut off the cost. Or you stop subscribing.
I was gonna say you can cut off the cost. I was like, how?
But in some ways,
Yeah,
private service?
Stop
people do
playing.
play these games for like for days. I mean,
Oh,
I
of course
spent
they play these games for
120 days of my life playing RuneScape. That's a third of a year of
Okay.
my life playing.
That is something
the-
that you should never admit.
I don't care.
Look how
We're talking
distressed
about
she is.
value of games.
Yeah, okay, and the people that pay subscriptions, and as you say, they do play these games for hours and hours and hours, it's because they're paying a fucking subscription.
But no,
okay, think about the amount of Netflix that I watch. I don't know why you would know the amount of Netflix that I watch, but okay, I'm paying £6 a month, and because of that, Netflix is constantly on because I'm fucking paying
But
for
you're
it.
saying
I'm
that if
fucking
you pay for it,
user.
you play it.
I don't think people
disagree.
are going to spend their leisure time playing a game because they feel like they have to because they
They
paid
subscribe.
£7
No, I
for
disagree
the
as well.
month.
Okay, the only reason I'm playing through Thief at the moment is because I paid full price for it, and I feel
Paid
like
full
I.
price for Rambo, your opinion is invalid.
Yeah, you are a bit of a cretin.
Well, here it is, the stick of truth. Don't gaze at it too long, for its power is too much for mere mortals to look at.
So, it's finally here. The diseased brainchild of Trey Parker and Matt Stone has been released after countless delays. But did the wait really add that much to it?
South Park, The Stick of Truth, certainly lives up to the expectations you would have from such an infamous brand. The humour throughout is classic South Park, and the entire thing plays like an extension of the show, which is to be expected as it ropes in all of the writers and voices, and was in development long enough to write 2 seasons worth of episodes. You play as the new kid, dubbed Douchebag by Cartman, and get to choose one of 4 classes to play the game as: Fighter, Sorcerer, Thief, or Jew.
You, huh? So I guess we'll never really be friends.
The game starts as a make-believe fantasy between all of the children of South Park, and keeps the tone light-hearted, and most importantly, not afraid to poke fun at itself.
Don't talk to her, she's not part of the game.
The other characters soon make an appearance, with Butters the Paladin becoming your first friend, and Princess Kenny taking a disturbing liking to you within the first 10 minutes. Things inevitably go downhill from there in the inimitable style of the show.
Don't touch him, he's ginger!
So, on the surface, all is well and good. The animation is near perfect, the humour is exactly what you'd expect, and the plot is surprisingly well written. But this is a game for the fans, and if you're not a fan of the show, you're probably going to be left wanting.
Okay, I kicked the baby!
And why is that, you ask? The Stick of Truth relies on referencing and in-jokes to break up the monotony of an average RPG. Don't get me wrong, the references are wonderfully placed, sometimes cleverly hidden, and never overly intrusive. Everywhere you look, there is something from the show to remind you of your favourite parts, and at no point does it feel forced. From collectible chin Pokemon to finding Jesus to hearing about Mr. Hankey's horrible marriage problems in the sewers.
I gotta get my wife some help!
The entire thing flows smoothly and mixes the classic, older South Park jokes with the new, evoking nostalgia and laughter. Even the music is typical, with the atmospheric orchestral overtones of a traditional fantasy RPG interlaced with Cartman mumbling about Jews. They've even managed to get around censorship restrictions admirably. I spent more than a few minutes laughing at screens of the European Union flag overlaced with the words, "Sorry for the censorship, but..." and then describing the removed scene in great detail in an apologetic manner.
This is the kind of stuff you put up with living in a remote little mountain town.
That being said, under its well-polished exterior, the game starts to buckle under observation. The combat difficulty curve is erratic, being frustrating to start with, and levelling out quickly into mediocre once you get the hang of the battle system. They've added summons into the battles, which are one-shot instant wins due to incredibly outscaled damage, but they can't be used against any of the boss fights, the only chance at a challenge you're ever likely to get, and even that isn't very often, making them superfluous, and they just feel like another way to shoehorn references in.
Prove this!
Even your buddies in combat don't help an awful lot, often having skills that are poorly described, and you can lose fights while you work out if a certain skill works against armoured enemies or not. It's not a learning curve, it's frustrating bullshit. The economy is worthless also. The sheer amount of shit you find around to sell negates any chance that you'll never afford what you need, and most of the time the game spoon feeds you the equipment you need for the next 2 or 3 levels anyway. At one point I had so much spare cash without farming at all, that I bought the single most expensive item in the entire game just for fun.
Here we go.
Alright, so it was a David Hasselhoff facelift and completely worth it, but still, the point stands.
Gee, I wish I could get some rhinoplasty too!
For the actual game mechanics of an RPG, it's lackluster and not particularly well balanced. I was more than a little disappointed, even if it didn't detract from the story. I'd have liked a bigger challenge overall. The jokes too, while remaining true to the creator's very recognisable style, take a turn towards the outright tasteless at times. Smashing zombie fetuses with your handheld weapons of choice in the abortion clinic was a bit much for me. And the less said about the boss at the end of that section, the better.
It's not secure!
The times when this was an issue was very few, admittedly, but it's going to offend and upset some people. So, despite its flaws, and the Stick of Truth is far from flawless, I've had a lot of fun with this. It's a very well-written game, the main plot is very engaging, and the side quests are varied enough to keep you interested. When you couple it with the voice acting and the general direction, it ties into a very neat little package, and is going to be nearly unmissable for fans of the show. If you're not a fan of the show, I would wait and pick it up on a budget, because I think you're going to miss a lot of it. Myself, I've enjoyed the hell out of it, and I think it gets a very solid and well-deserved 6 out of 8. Sweet.
Dude, that was awesome!
So, if you've been keeping an eye out on the channel, you'll see that we've been checking out a whole host of indie games this month in build-up to our trip to Res, the convention. And if you're watching this today, or later on from in the future,
Well,
you
no,
should
they're
check
always
out...
going to be watching it today. Today is a subjective term.
Well, if you're watching the video, check out my interview with
If
Ben
you're watching the
Ruiz.
video tomorrow...
If you're watching the check out my interview with Ben Ruiz. He's a lovely guy, and he's making this awesome beat-em-up game, Aztez.
Oh, and you should watch my Heart Slash video and then support them on Kickstarter, because they're making a Zelda-like...
And you should definitely watch these guys' videos, because
yours are weak.
Thank you.
like you. That is gorgeous. Anyway, everything coming up on the channel will be hashtagged
with Road to Res. Speaking of hashtag Road to Res, that kind of brings us to Twitter, and you should follow the Kilobits on Twitter at the Kilobits.
the hashtag thing.
Yeah, the hashtag
I get
thing.
it.
See, look at that Sagoo.
We also have a Facebook, facebook.com/Kilobits, and you can like and subscribe to the channel. You can comment on the entirety of this video and how awesome it was and how great the channel is and how you're always watching us. And
But that would be
occasionally
lying. So
It's much more fun to comment on how often Fran struggles to make sense out of the chaos that is me and Toby.
Yeah, we're not
Yeah,
chaos.
it's difficult, and we'll see you guys
I don't
next season, I guess.
Oh.
That's sad. Bye.
Take my breath away.